The Nexus Arena had seen a lot of violence in its 3-century history, but nothing quite like watching a human being launched across the combat floor like a rag doll filled with regret. Maya hit the reinforced barrier wall with a sound that made the Centaurian spectators' gill slits clench in sympathetic pain. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted non-binary entities," announced commentator Zixtel, his voice carrying the professional enthusiasm of someone who'd just witnessed a career-ending catastrophe. "I believe we can safely call this match concluded. Medical teams are standing by for what appears to be a tragic end to Earth's first participation in the Galactic Combat Championship." Gorthak the Destroyer stood in the center of the arena, all 9 feet and 800 pounds of crystalline muscle and righteous fury. His species, the Krillians, had dominated heavyweight combat for the better part of 4 decades. They were built like living siege engines, with bones denser than titanium, and the kind of casual strength that made structural engineers weep. The blow that had sent Maya flying would have liquefied most carbon-based life forms. Hell, it would have given pause to some of the silicon-based ones. Gorthak flexed his 4 arms in the traditional victory pose while the crowd processed what they'd just witnessed. "The human representative appears to be..." Commentator Yexavara paused, consulting her notes with the kind of careful precision that suggested she was about to deliver very bad news. "Well, motionless. Medical scans indicate severe trauma to multiple organ systems. This is exactly the kind of outcome the Terran Athletic Commission was hoping to avoid." Maya lay against the barrier wall in a position that physics suggested was incompatible with continued consciousness. The impact had left a visible dent in the supposedly indestructible arena wall. Emergency medical drones were already converging on her location, their sensors painting the area with diagnostic beams. 17 separate bone fractures, reported the lead medical technician over the arena's communication system. Massive internal bleeding. Possible spinal trauma. We need immediate evacuation to... Is that it? The voice cut through the arena's concerned murmur like a knife through diplomatic protocol. Maya was sitting up, looking around with the mild confusion of someone who'd just been woken from a particularly deep nap. Did we start yet? I was still stretching. The silence that followed was the kind that preceded either applause or complete mental breakdown. Maya climbed to her feet with the casual ease of someone getting out of bed, not someone who had just been diagnosed with enough injuries to stock a trauma ward. "Wait," commentator Zixtel said, his voice climbing to frequencies that suggested his professional composure was experiencing rapid decompression. "What's happening? The medical readouts clearly indicate..." "She's moving," commentator Yexvara interrupted, her tone carrying the kind of wonder usually reserved for religious experiences or really good street food. "The human is moving. That's not supposed to be possible." Maya brushed some dust off her simple athletic wear and rolled her shoulders experimentally. "Wow, that guy hits pretty hard. Almost felt that one." She looked around the arena with genuine curiosity. "Hey, do you folks have any snacks here? All this excitement is making me hungry." The medical team descended on her like concerned insects, waving scanners and making the kind of urgent chittering sounds that suggested their equipment was having philosophical disagreements with reality. "Patient shows massive internal trauma," the chief medic announced, his tentacles writhing with confusion. "Multiple fractures, organ displacement, neural disruption, yet she exhibits full mobility and normal cognitive function. This is medically impossible." "Maybe your machines are broken," Maya suggested helpfully, performing what appeared to be a casual hamstring stretch. "I feel fine. A little loose, actually." That was a good warm-up hit. Gorthak, who had been basking in his apparent victory, was now staring at Maya with the expression of someone whose understanding of cause and effect was undergoing aggressive revision. You were defeated. I delivered the crushing blow of inevitable doom. It is a technique that has never failed to end combat." "Oh, that was a technique?" Maya looked genuinely interested. "Sorry, I didn't realize we were doing the fancy stuff. I thought we were just getting started." She began doing jumping jacks with the kind of enthusiasm that suggested she was genuinely enjoying herself. "This is fun. Much better than my usual Tuesday night kickboxing class." The arena's medical scanners were now displaying readings that made the technical staff question their career choices. According to every piece of diagnostic equipment in the facility, Maya should have been unconscious, paralyzed, or preferably both. Instead, she was asking arena staff about the quality of their vending machines. "This is unprecedented," announced the chief combat official, a dignified Altarian whose species was renowned for their logical approach to problem-solving. "The human appears to have sustained injuries that would incapacitate any known species, yet continues to exhibit normal function. We may need to suspend the match pending medical evaluation." "Suspend?" Maya looked genuinely disappointed. "But we're just getting warmed up. I haven't even tried any of the fun stuff yet." She walked toward Gorthak with the kind of casual confidence that made the Krillian champion take an involuntary step backward. There was something unsettling about the way she moved. Not like someone who had just been violently introduced to a wall, but like someone out for a leisurely stroll who'd decided to incorporate some light violence into their exercise routine. "Look, Gorthak, can I call you Gorth? That was a really solid hit. I mean, genuinely impressive. But if we're actually going to fight, maybe we should, fight." Maya cracked her knuckles in a way that made several spectators flinch sympathetically. "Unless you're done, because I'm just getting started." Gorthak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he processed this information. In his experience, beings who survived the crushing blow of inevitable doom typically did so by not being hit by it. Maya had taken it directly, and was now critiquing his technique like a particularly helpful coach. But you were..." Gorthak gestured helplessly at the dent in the arena wall. "The impact force was calculated to exceed your species' structural tolerances by a factor of 12. "Huh," Maya said thoughtfully. "Your math might be off." What happened next would be analyzed by xenobiologists for decades and give physics professors across the galaxy stress-related molting disorders. Maya took 3 casual steps forward, performed what appeared to be a simple leg sweep combined with a gentle push, and Gorthak the Destroyer, 800 pounds of crystalline muscle and unstoppable force, hit the arena floor like a dropped brick. The impact was so sudden, so complete, and so utterly anticlimactic that the arena's crowd experienced collective cognitive dissonance. Gorthak lay motionless, not unconscious but simply unable to comprehend how he'd gone from standing to lying down without any apparent transition between the two states. "Match concluded," Maya announced cheerfully, brushing her hands together with the satisfaction of someone who'd just completed a minor household chore. "That was fun. Same time next week?" The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of commentator Zixtel's microphone hitting the floor as he forgot how to use his appendages. "Did anyone else see what just happened?" Commentator Yexavara whispered, apparently forgetting that her microphone was still active and broadcasting to 17 star systems. "I saw it," replied Zixtel in the tone of someone whose worldview had just been folded into origami. "But I don't think I believe it." Maya was already walking toward the arena exit, waving cheerfully to the stunned crowd. "Thanks for having me. This was way more fun than intramural wrestling. You guys really know how to put on a show." The chief combat official was frantically consulting his rulebook, apparently searching for regulations that covered matches ending in impossible ways. "The official duration of the decisive combat phase was 3.2 seconds, he announced with the careful tone of someone reporting a natural disaster. "This appears to be a new arena record." As Maya disappeared into the tunnel leading to the locker rooms, still asking if anyone knew where she could get a decent sandwich, the Nexus Arena was left to process what they'd just witnessed. The reigning Galactic Heavyweight Champion was still, lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling with the expression of someone reconsidering fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality. And in the stands, 17 different species were quietly beginning to wonder exactly what kind of beings they just invited to participate in galactic civilization. The Galactic Sports Commission's emergency analysis chamber looked like a war room designed by paranoid physicists. Holographic displays surrounded Commissioner Velthok as he watched the replay for the 43rd time, each viewing making him question his species' understanding of fundamental reality. "Run it again," he commanded, his 4 eyes tracking different aspects of the impossible footage. Frame by frame, molecular resolution. The replay began with Maya's casual approach toward Gorthak. Normal enough. Then came the movement, what appeared to be a simple step and pivot, that somehow resulted in 800 pounds of crystalline muscle becoming intimately acquainted with the arena floor. "There," announced Dr. Keksavala, the Commission's chief xenobiologist, pointing at frame 1247 with a trembling appendage. "Do you see the angular momentum displacement? It's impossible. She's redirecting force that doesn't exist using leverage points that aren't there." Commissioner Velthok paused the replay and zoomed in on Maya's foot placement. "According to our calculations, she applied approximately 47 pounds of force to neutralize a being capable of bench-pressing small moons. The physics don't support this outcome." "The physics don't support any of this," Dr. Keksavala replied, consulting her instruments with the expression of someone whose life's work was being personally insulted by reality. "Look at this energy distribution pattern. She's somehow converting Gorthak's kinetic energy into nothing. It just disappears." Technical analyst Yexneth, whose species had evolved specifically to understand complex mechanical systems, was running stress calculations on a tablet that kept displaying error messages. According to these readings, Maya's technique should have resulted in her own structural failure. Instead, Gorthak experienced complete combat shutdown without apparent trauma. Could this be some form of advanced technology? Commissioner Velthok asked hopefully. Hidden devices? Gravitational manipulation? Negative, Dr. Keksavala reported after reviewing the pre-fight scans. No technological augmentation detected. No energy signatures consistent with known weaponry. She accomplished this through movement. The word hung in the air like an accusation against everything they thought they knew about cause and effect. Meanwhile, in the arena's interview chamber, Maya was seated across from three increasingly agitated officials, answering questions with the kind of helpful enthusiasm that made xenopsychologists reach for their medication. "Miss Maya," began Director Zextal of Interspecies Athletic Relations, consulting his notes with visible desperation, "we need you to explain exactly how you defeated Gorthak. Our technical analysis is inconclusive." "Oh, that's easy," Maya replied, accepting a cup of what the aliens assured her was a suitable beverage but tasted suspiciously like carbonated tree bark. "Basic wrestling takedown, hip toss into a sweep. Nothing fancy." Director Zextal exchanged glances with his colleagues that conveyed approximately 17 different kinds of confusion. "When you say basic, could you elaborate on your training background?" "Sure. I did wrestling in high school, some judo in college, and I still hit the local MMA gym a couple times a week when work isn't too crazy." Maya shrugged with the casual air of someone discussing their grocery shopping habits. "You know, just to stay in shape." The translation software worked overtime, trying to make sense of terms that didn't appear in any galactic database. Administrator Kixvel leaned forward with the intensity of someone trying to prevent an interstellar incident through careful questioning. "This high school wrestling, is this a form of military training? A warrior caste preparation ritual?" Maya laughed, a sound that made the aliens flinch reflexively. "Military training? It's just PE class. You know, physical education. Most schools have it. Kids gotta learn basic fitness." "Kids," Director Zextal repeated slowly, "learn these techniques as part of standard education?" "Well, yeah. Wrestling, basketball, track and field, swimming. Basic stuff." Maya tilted her head thoughtfully. "Though not everyone liked wrestling. Some kids preferred soccer or tennis." The officials were frantically taking notes, apparently trying to understand an educational system that included teaching children to perform impossible physical feats as recreational activities. "And this MMA gym," Administrator Kixavel continued with the careful tone of someone approaching a dangerous explosive. "This is advanced combat training? Mixed martial arts? Nah, it's just for fun. Great workout, good stress relief after a long day at the office." Maya stretched contentedly. "Though I'll admit, the guys at my gym hit a lot softer than Gorthak. That was actually refreshing." In the Commission's Data Analysis Center, Senior Archivist Tex Samora was experiencing the kind of existential crisis that came with discovering that everything you thought you knew was catastrophically wrong. "I've pulled the official human classification files," she announced to the assembled committee, her voice carrying the hollow tone of someone delivering very bad news. "According to galactic records, Homo sapiens are classified as Category C sapiens, fragile bipeds with limited physical capabilities, suitable primarily for intellectual and diplomatic roles. Commissioner Velthok looked up from the Maya replay footage, where she was frozen mid-impossibility. And the assessment basis for this classification? Initial contact reports from 63 years ago. Human representatives described their species as peaceful, non-aggressive, and preferring diplomatic solutions to conflicts. Senior archivist Texamora scrolled through the files with growing horror. Physical assessment notes describe humans as delicate, requiring environmental protection, and possessing minimal natural defenses. Minimal natural defenses, Director Zextal repeated from the interview chamber, where he was listening to the archive review through his communication implant, while watching Maya demonstrate basic stretching exercises that looked like advanced combat preparation. The assessment team recommended humans for Category C status specifically because of their apparent physical limitations, Senior Archivist Tex Mora continued. Quote, "This species shows no indication of combat capability beyond tool use. Recommend classification as intellectually valuable, but physically non-threatening." Commissioner Velthok paused the replay again, focusing on the moment when Maya had casually redirected enough force to demolish a building. And this assessment was based on interviews with human diplomatic personnel who described their military as defensive and their combat sports as recreational entertainment with safety regulations. The silence that followed was broken by Maya's cheerful voice from the interview chamber. "Oh, you want to know about safety regulations? Yeah, we have tons of those. Can't have people getting seriously hurt during practice. That's why we use mats and protective gear and stuff." Dr. Keksavala looked up from her biological analysis reports, with the expression of someone whose understanding of evolutionary biology had just been fed through a paper shredder. According to these files, human bone density is rated as moderate, muscle efficiency as standard, and reflexes as adequate for survival needs. Then how? Commissioner Velthok asked with the careful tone of someone approaching a logical paradox. Did Maya just defeat our heavyweight champion, using what she describes as basic high school techniques? "I think," Senior Archivist Texamora said slowly, "we may have been lied to." "Not lied to," Director Zextal corrected from the interview chamber, where Maya was explaining that her local gym offered beginner-friendly classes for people who just want basic self-defense skills. "Misled. The humans told us exactly what they were. We just didn't understand what they meant." Maya's voice drifted over the communication system with the kind of innocent enthusiasm that made experienced diplomats break out in cold sweats. "You should totally visit Earth sometime. We could show you around. Maybe catch a UFC fight, check out some Olympic wrestling. The kids at the local high school are having a tournament next month. That could be fun to watch." Commissioner Velthok realized they weren't dealing with a classification error. They were dealing with a species that considered impossible physical capabilities to be so normal, so everyday, that they genuinely hadn't thought to mention them during first contact. "Emergency session," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd just realized his entire understanding of the universe needed aggressive revision. "We need to review every human classification in our database. All of them." "Sir," Senior Archivist Tex Mora asked quietly, "what if they're all wrong?" The question hung in the air like a particularly ominous storm cloud, while Maya's cheerful voice continued describing her weekend hiking plans and her sister's impressive performance in something called Collegiate Wrestling Championships. The Galactic Athletics Authority's filing system had been designed to handle every conceivable sporting outcome across 43 different species and 12 different gravity environments. It had not been designed to handle Maya's victory report, which was currently causing the mainframe to display error messages in languages that didn't technically exist. Form 84J. Post-Competition Incident Report, read Clerk Nextall with the tone of someone whose job had just become significantly more complicated. Section 12. A. Method of victory. Available options are technical superiority, submission, knockout, ring out, medical stoppage, or equipment failure. Maya looked up from her paperwork with helpful enthusiasm. "What about basic takedown? That's pretty much what happened." "Basic takedown," Clerk Nextal repeated, scrolling through 17 screens of regulatory options. There's no category for basic takedown, resulting in the immediate incapacitation of a Category 9 heavyweight champion. Huh. Weird oversight. Maya shrugged and continued filling out forms that seemed to assume she belonged to a species with fundamentally different relationships with physics. What about under miscellaneous? The computer chose this moment to crash completely, displaying a message that roughly translated to reality error. Please consult your local priest or physicist. I think, Clerk Nextal said slowly, we're going to need a new form. 3 floors up in the Department of Interspecies Athletics Regulation, Director Kixvel was having a heated argument with representatives from 6 different bureaucratic agencies about who exactly was responsible for handling impossible human performance incidents. This clearly falls under xenobiological anomaly investigation, insisted Agent Tex Mora from the Department of Unlikely Events. Any sporting outcome that violates known physical laws is automatically our jurisdiction. Negative, replied Administrator Vextal from Competitive Standards Enforcement. The incident occurred during a sanctioned athletic event. Regardless of the impossibility factor, it's a sporting matter. But the impossibility factor is exactly what makes it our concern, Agent Texamora shot back. When athletes start rewriting physics, that's an anomaly investigation. Director Kixavel rubbed his temples with all 4 hands, a gesture that in his species indicated imminent bureaucratic breakdown. What does the Interdepartmental Jurisdiction Manual say about human-related incidents? That's the problem, admitted legal consultant Zex Nara, whose job involved interpreting regulations that had suddenly become inadequate for reality. The manual was written 63 years ago, when humans were classified as physically unremarkable. There are no protocols for dealing with beings who treat physics as optional. Meanwhile, Maya was patiently working through a stack of forms in the Competitor Processing Center, occasionally asking questions that made the administrative staff question their life choices. Question 15 asks about performance-enhancing substances, Maya said to processing clerk Yextel. Does that include the protein bar I had for breakfast? It was pretty good, chocolate chip. A protein bar, Clerk Yextel repeated with the careful tone of someone trying to determine if they were witnessing a confession to illegal enhancement. What? What kind of protein? I think it was whey. Maybe some nuts. It had a really detailed ingredient list, but I didn't read all of it. Maya looked genuinely concerned about providing accurate information. Should I have brought the wrapper? Clerk Yextel was frantically checking databases for any reference to whey as a performance-enhancing substance when Maya casually destroyed his entire worldview with her next comment. You know, if you really want to see impressive fighting, you should watch my little sister Kayla. She's actually good at this stuff. The silence that followed was the kind that preceded either enlightenment or complete mental breakdown. Clerk Yextel slowly looked up from his forms with the expression of someone who'd just been told that the apocalypse was a family affair. Your sister? Yeah, Kayla. She's got 3 state championship titles and she's training for the Olympics. Maya smiled with sisterly pride. I was always more into track and field, but she really took to wrestling. Much better technique than me. Clerk Yextel activated his emergency communication implant with trembling appendages. Director Kixvel, we have a situation. The human has family members with superior combat capabilities. The response was immediate and panicked. Superior? Superior to what we just witnessed? According to the subject, yes, sir. Multiple championship titles and Olympic-level training. Olympics, Director Kixavel repeated with the hollow tone of someone whose understanding of human recreational activities was undergoing aggressive revision. Research team, I need immediate analysis of this Olympics phenomenon. The research team's preliminary report arrived within minutes and promptly triggered the first galaxy-wide athletic emergency in recorded history. Sir, reported Chief Researcher Dex Vala with the voice of someone delivering news that would require significant medication. Olympic-level human athletes represent the absolute peak of their species' physical capabilities. We're talking about beings who can run faster, jump higher, lift more, and fight better than anything we've previously encountered. And Maya considers herself inferior to these beings? According to her statements, Yes, sir. She describes her own abilities as recreational, compared to serious competitive athletes. Director Kixavel felt something fundamental shift in his understanding of the universe. How many humans are there on Earth? Approximately 8 billion, sir. And what percentage participate in athletic training? Chief researcher Dex Vala consulted her rapidly expanding files on human recreational activities. Conservative estimates suggest that basic physical training is mandatory for all human children, with approximately 30% continuing competitive athletics into adulthood. The mathematical implications hit the galactic sporting establishment like a meteor made of pure existential dread. Approximately 2.5 billion beings who considered Maya's impossible performance to be amateur-level recreational activity. While the athletic authorities had their collective nervous breakdown, the galactic gambling industry was experiencing its own version of economic apocalypse. Bookmaker Texaval of the prestigious Centauri betting exchange was staring at odds calculations that had transformed into abstract art. The betting pools have collapsed, he announced to his emergency board meeting with the hollow voice of someone whose entire industry had just been personally insulted by mathematics. Every algorithm, every predictive model, every statistical analysis we've ever developed is now completely useless. Board member Vextal flipped through financial reports that read like casualty lists. How bad is it? Before Maya's fight, Gorthok was rated at 99.7% certainty for victory. Standard payout was 1.2 to 1 for betting on the champion. Maya was listed at 847 to 1 odds, basically a novelty bet. Bookmaker Texaval paused to take medication for his rapidly developing stress, molting. The payout requirements for Maya's victory just bankrupted 17 different gambling operations. And future human participation? Uninsurable. We have no statistical basis for calculating odds on beings who operate outside known physical parameters. Bookmaker Texval gestured helplessly at his calculations. How do you set odds on someone who might spontaneously rewrite physics? The Galactic Insurance Consortium was facing similar challenges. Claims adjuster Nexavala was reviewing policies that had suddenly become inadequate for reality. Standard athletic insurance assumes participants will operate within species normal capabilities, she reported to the emergency consortium meeting. Human participants invalidate this assumption completely. We're looking at potential liability exposure that exceeds the gross domestic product of most star systems. Recommendation? Asked consortium director Yextal with the tone of someone hoping for good news but expecting a financial apocalypse. Immediate suspension of coverage for any event involving human participants. Also, emergency review of all existing policies covering recreational activities on Earth. What about the humans already covered under standard policies? Claims adjuster Nexvala made the kind of sound that suggested her species had evolved specific vocalizations for expressing financial horror. According to our risk assessment models, standard human recreational activities now qualify as extreme sports with catastrophic potential. Our entire Earth portfolio is essentially uninsurable. Back in the processing center, Maya had finished her paperwork and was chatting with clerk Yextel about her training routine, blissfully unaware that her casual mentions of weekend hikes and friendly sparring sessions were triggering economic chaos across multiple star systems. So anyway, Maya concluded cheerfully, the gym back home is having a tournament next month. Mixed divisions, all skill levels. You guys should totally send a team. It would be fun to have some interspecies competition. Clerk Yextel stared at her with the expression of someone who'd just been invited to attend his own funeral. Tournament? Yeah. Nothing too serious, just local competitors. Though I think a few regional champions might show up. Maya gathered her completed forms with satisfaction. It's always more fun when you get to fight people you haven't trained with before. The casual mention of regional champions and local competitors sent one final wave of panic through the galactic athletic establishment. Somewhere in the depths of the bureaucracy, Form 84J was being completely rewritten to include new categories like reality violation, physics denial, and human involvement. And Maya, completely oblivious to the administrative apocalypse she'd triggered, was already planning her post-victory celebration meal and wondering if the arena had a decent gym where she could get in a quick workout before heading home. Since you folks seem so interested in human athletic techniques, Maya announced to the assembled galactic officials with the enthusiasm of someone offering to share a favorite recipe. I could show you some basic moves. Nothing fancy, just the fundamentals. The conference room cleared faster than a space station during hull breach. Director Kixavel, Commissioner Velthok, and Chief Researcher Dexvala suddenly discovered urgent meetings, family emergencies, and religious obligations that required their immediate attention elsewhere. That's okay, Maya called after them cheerfully. Maybe later. The few officials who remained, either due to professional, duty or species-specific paralysis responses, watched with the fascination of beings observing their own imminent obsolescence as Maya demonstrated what she called a basic hip throw. The demonstration dummy, rated to withstand impacts from Class 7 siege weapons, disintegrated. Oops, Maya said, looking genuinely apologetic. I probably should have mentioned that practice dummies need to be a bit sturdier for human training. We go through a lot of equipment back home. Dr. Keksavala was taking notes with the frantic energy of someone documenting the end of everything she thought she knew about biology. When you say go through equipment, exactly how often do humans require replacement training materials? Oh, every few weeks maybe? Depends on how intense the sessions get. Maya shrugged with the casual air of someone discussing routine maintenance. Though the good gyms invest in really durable stuff. Military-grade padding, reinforced frames, that kind of thing. The phrase military-grade triggered immediate emergency protocols. Within minutes, security alerts were cascading through galactic defense networks as the implications of human, recreational training requirements sank in. Meanwhile, in the Department of Species Classification, Senior Archivist Tex Mora was drafting what would become known as the most terrifying document in galactic bureaucratic history. Updated Human Species Classification, she announced to the emergency session, her voice carrying the hollow tone of someone whose career had just been personally insulted by reality. Previous designation, Category C Sapiens, physically unremarkable, suitable for diplomatic and intellectual roles. And the new classification? Asked Director Zextal with the careful tone of someone hoping for manageable bad news. Category designation, undefined. Human physical capabilities exceed established parameters for biological organisms. Recommended classification, autonomous reality adjustment units with diplomatic tendencies. The silence that followed was broken by nervous laughter from Commissioner Velthok. That's not a species classification. That's a description of minor deities. Yes, sir. The classification committee is recommending we create an entirely new category. Preliminary designation, beings who treat physics as friendly suggestions. The updated classification triggered panic across 17 star systems as the implications rippled through galactic civilization. Military strategists began emergency reviews of defense protocols, insurance companies declared bankruptcy, and several pacifist species filed formal requests to relocate to different galaxies entirely. In the Centauri Defense Command, General Nexaval was reviewing reports that made him question the fundamental nature of military strategy. You're telling me that humans consider combat training to be recreational exercise? Yes, sir, reported intelligence analyst Yextara with the tone of someone delivering news that would require significant restructuring of reality. Analysis of Earth's educational systems indicates that basic combat techniques are taught as mandatory physical education. Advanced techniques are pursued as hobby activities. Hobby activities. Yes, sir. They engage in organized violence for entertainment and personal fulfillment. General Nexval stared at the reports with the expression of someone whose understanding of warfare had just been fed through a philosophical wood chipper. And their military capabilities? Unknown, sir. If their recreational activities produce beings like Maya, we have no framework for assessing their actual military potential. Back at the arena, Maya had been issued an official classification card that she was reading with genuine curiosity. Biological impossibility, with diplomatic immunity. She read aloud to Clerk Yextel. That's new. Is that good? It sounds kind of ominous. It means, Clerk Yextel explained with the patient tone of someone whose job had evolved beyond his species' comprehension, that you're officially recognized as operating outside normal biological parameters. But we'd really prefer if you continued being friendly about it. Oh, that's nice. I like being friendly. Maya tucked the card into her gym bag next to what appeared to be enough athletic equipment to outfit a small army. So when's the next tournament? This was really fun, and I'd love to compete again. The question hit the galactic sporting establishment like a diplomatic meteor. Emergency meetings were called. Regulations were hastily rewritten, and several commissioners filed for early retirement. We're, restructuring the competitive categories, Director Kixavel explained, during an emergency broadcast that was simultaneously translated into 43 languages and several mathematical concepts. New divisions will include traditional physics, modified physics, and human. Human gets its own division? Maya asked with genuine surprise. You get your own division, Commissioner Velthok confirmed, and possibly your own planet to compete on, somewhere with really good insurance coverage. Maya was about to respond when her communication device chimed with an incoming message. She read it with growing excitement that made several officials quietly edge toward the exits. Oh, awesome! My sister Kayla just qualified for the Intergalactic Exchange Program. She'll be visiting next month. Maya looked up with the kind of enthusiasm that made experienced diplomats reach for emergency medication. She's really excited to meet everyone and maybe do some sparring sessions. She's been working on this new technique that combines judo with something she calls physics optimization. The phrase physics optimization caused immediate system-wide alerts across the galactic communication network. 3 different species filed emergency evacuation requests, and the Galactic Insurance Consortium formally declared Earth a catastrophic liability zone. Sparring sessions, Director Kixavel repeated with the hollow voice of someone whose worst nightmares were planning social visits. Yeah, she's always looking for new training partners. I told her you folks seem really interested in human techniques, so she's bringing some demonstration materials. Maya gathered her things with cheerful efficiency. It'll be great. She promised to bring videos of our local high school's wrestling team too. They just won state championships. As Maya headed for the arena exit, still chatting about her sister's achievements and the exciting educational opportunities available in Earth's athletic programs, the assembled galactic officials sat in stunned silence. Finally, Commissioner Velthok spoke for all of them. We should never have let humans leave their planet. But Maya was already gone, humming cheerfully as she planned training sessions that would reshape galactic civilization's understanding of what was physically possible. Completely oblivious to the fact that she just accidentally conquered the universe's sporting establishment through the simple expedient of being casually, impossibly, cheerfully human.